Hey folks, how we doing today? It's me again, Shannon Fox here at the Patriots 2 channel. I just want to let y'all know, if you missed it, Trump had a town hall on Fox the other day, and it was a great interview. Also, at the same time, the two rhinos, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, were button heads on the debate stage. Not very eventful. And Vivek Ramaswamy went on a Tim Pool podcast. If you don't know who that is, he's got a huge channel on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, just about everywhere. And also, Vivek has been doing a lot of public speaking events over the last several days. They're all actually out on the campaign trail over Iowa and New Hampshire caucuses coming up ASAP. Now, definitely stick around for the Vivek video. He throws the hammer at the reporters, Kerry Lake style. I love it. I love it. I'm glad to see, no matter what position Vivek takes in the future as far as politics, as far as his seat, I don't know. But at this point, I'm glad to see we've got people like him that can actually call out the left, call out the lying media, stand up for this country with every conversation that he has while he's being attacked, just like Trump is attacked, for spilling the beans, for telling the truth, for calling out the liars, including fake news. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get into this. This is a short take of Greg Gutfeld I was watching this morning. I watch a little Greg Gutfeld at times. He's a little comical and a little political. And more than once, I know for a fact, in the last month, I have made videos and I said, what else are they going to call Trump? What's the next upgrade? Well, he went from white supremacist, insurrectionist, traitorous, treasonous, deplorable, dictator is the latest term that we've all heard. Confederate dictator. Well, at this point, I'm guessing, just my own personal experience, it can only be upgraded to a few things worse than a dictator. Fascist, that is another one that they called him here recently. And so I called out the fact that I think eventually the Democrats will start calling Trump the Antichrist. Just kind of making a joke, but I just figured it was coming. Only thing worse than a Confederate dictator, I guess, would be the epitome of evil himself, Satan or the Antichrist. And sure enough, I said it, called it in advance, and we're already starting to hear it chirping. So it only took a couple of weeks for me to predict such a thing, and it's already happening. I hope most of my predictions don't come true, because I got some really horrible thoughts as to what the left is going to do between now and Election Day, as far as trying to prevent Trump from helping our country get back on its feet, including keeping him off the ballot and things of that nature. But I won't do too much more speculating, but I will let you know, I called it first. They are now calling Trump the Antichrist. No doubt about it, folks. Crazy shit. Check it out.
Michelle. Oh, we're still 10 months away from Election Day, and the Dems have already pivoted from calling Trump Hitler to the Antichrist. But if this keeps up, they're going to have to call Trump a name that's even worse, like President.
So I thought this was kind of comical. This is Tyrus, one of the guests on the Gutfeld show. He is talking about Charlemagne the God, who's got a pretty big podcast channel. He's the guy that Joe Biden was on his channel when he said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Well, Charlemagne the God is now saying he will not vote for Biden. Biden's horrible. Biden is shit. That's what he said, his words. And then he turns right around and says, but we can't vote for the threat to democracy, Trump. I know exactly what happened here. He was probably nudged by somebody. You want to trash Biden, that's one thing, but you don't get to promote Trump. And I think it's pretty comical the way this went down. It shows that he's a sellout. He can't think with his own mind without worrying about losing something for speaking the truth. What it is this woke media, this mainstream lying media. If you do not support their candidate, they will make sure you never work again in this town, and that's the name of the game. Let's go ahead and get into that.
elected official and he's ruined the country, but Trump is, I'm going to say it, Trump is bad. He's the Antichrist. The uncomfortableness, because he was on his radio show, but now he's got his TV show, and they'll take all that away.
Right.
So he had to back down because he likes his shows. So he had to say that Biden's bad, but Trump's worse. But he wasn't comfortable saying that Trump, look at his body language. Like, that's uncomfortable. He made a choice to where he folded because he knew he's seen the results of being canceled. If he went on CNN and he just stopped that Biden is a bad president, it would be Charmaine the Ghost. Because we would never see him again.
That's right.
Kat, how can people not see that they're victims of a hysteria? It's like they could step out and go like, okay, I'm being completely idiotic right now. He's not the Antichrist. He's not Hitler. What is it about that?
Well, what's so interesting is that Charlemagne called Trump the Antichrist, but he's also been willing several times to criticize Biden. So, what is literally everybody else's excuse? You play that clip and you show Charlemagne. He's actually one of the more level-headed people out there, because if you watch Whoopi, The View is a great example. Have they ever said anything critical about Biden? Maybe I missed it, but usually it's this over-the-top, unhinged criticisms of Trump, because people view any criticism of Biden as somehow helping Trump because he's this horrible. And Charlemagne was right that when you say that over and over and over again, it really does kind of lose some of its luster. I feel like somebody calling someone the Antichrist would have in the past been like a bigger deal. Whereas this people are like, oh, they're doing it again. So I think it's a lot of people have just tuned it out and actually more than that, a lot of people are they don't want to hear any criticism of Trump because that people have already lost their credibility in criticizing him.
Post a clip here for you folks, so stick around. Nothing but good stuff here. Now watch how Vivek Ramaswamy handles these reporters. This is glorious.
On the previous question that you asked, those 4 things that were provably false.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of curious. I know some of these guys, we've been following some of you guys. I'm curious if there's any national media who actually believes that they were wrong, that those were.
Actually, it's a good question, Eddie. So Eddie's one of the, you guys are colleagues, 2 of the top state reps here. And I think that's it's a good thing to be curious about. Just by show of hands, who here is willing to admit that the Trump-Russia collusion hoax was indeed incorrectly reported by the mainstream media? Is there anybody here able to admit that that was incorrect reporting?
It wouldn't be really appropriate for us to answer a question.
Why not? Why would that be inappropriate? I think it would be inappropriate. What's inappropriate is lying to the public.
We're doing our job asking.
Is the public lied to, or did the media report on the set of facts that were provided?
So that's a fair question. I actually think that the public was lied to long after the media systematically still understood that this was the product of the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was a piece of Russian disinformation provided by the Hillary Clinton campaign that was served up to the federal government as a basis for issuing a FISA warrant to then potentially infiltrate a member of the opposition party. If this was Bush and Cheney doing it to John Kerry, this would have been the stuff of scandal, impeachment, and worse. And yet, I think it was an intentional lie that the media said that account, which we now know to be true, was actually the Russian disinformation. Now, Shauna, I would be charitable in my interpretation of that if it were just one instance. Let me give an easier one. Just by show of hands, does anybody believe the media's reporting about the origin of COVID-19 ran flatly in face of the facts that you have a Wuhan Institute of Virology that was now the likely origin of the COVID-19 pandemic? You all said that it wasn't for a long time. By show of hands, was the Wuhan lab the likely origin of the COVID-19 pandemic? Everybody, media or not. So you have reported, the same media that has reported that the COVID-19 pandemic did not originate in a lab in Wuhan is willing to even say, unwilling to admit today.
The report came out in 2023, so I guess
It was known that there was a Wuhan Institute of Virology where they were conducting gain-of-function research, the very city which was the origin of a global pandemic, and yet the media's explanation was that somehow it could have been any source other than actually having started in a lab. I just think that that's systematically unacceptable. The Hunter Biden laptop. Is the Hunter Biden laptop story, as reported by the New York Post, which was shut down, had the Twitter account locked for anybody who is even sharing the story of the Hunter Biden laptop found on the eve of the last election? The media reported that it was Russian disinformation on the eve of that election. Does anyone here agree that the Hunter Biden laptop story, as reported by the New York Post, was indeed accurately reported and was not Russian disinformation, but was in fact a factually owned laptop of Hunter Biden? I mean, you got to, man. I mean, your paper reported it. Does everybody else seriously not believe that?
I mean, I believe that Hunter Biden is suing Rudy Giuliani over the laptop, so I don't think that's...
So you don't believe, so you think that it actually was the product of Russian disinformation, as was reported by the media? That was the basis for suppressing this at the time?
Over the Hunter Biden case,
yeah.
I'm not sure why we're talking about that.
Because it was election interference on the eve of the last election.
Yeah.
And I think there's the same kind of election interference happening this time around.
Absolutely.
And I think it's happening, the early waves of it, with respect to the treatment of my candidacy. And I think that that is likely to be a major problem heading into the next year unless we're able to openly and transparently acknowledge the mistakes of the past. Without acknowledging the mistakes of the past, I think we are destined for an even more dangerous future. And I do not want to see a repeat of what happened in the 12 to 15 months leading up to January of 2021. I don't want to see that in this country. And I worry we're on a path to far worse than that until we have accountability 360 degrees for the mistakes that were made in that lead up. And the Hunter Biden laptop story and its suppression, Shauna, I do believe was a key part of the lead up to that. I think the suppression of the origin of COVID and the origin of the pandemic was a key part of the lead up to what happened in January of 2021.
Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump, back.
As the former president works.
Damn, folks, I must say, Vivek Ramaswamy does not hold no punches. He does not mind, just like Trump, calling out the mainstream media for their lies. Fact check everybody in the room. Who of you will put your hands up, admit that y'all were telling the lies, and now you recognize the truth? Crickets, folks. These reporters are bought and paid for and do not care about the truth. And he proved that just by asking the right questions. I am glad, and I am glad for Vivek Ramaswamy's ability to get out there and speak from the heart, say what he thinks, speak up for this country, and like Trump, call out the crooked media, the crooked Joe Biden regime, and the deep state, which are behind 90% of the things that have went wrong with this country in the last several years. Like, subscribe, and share to Vote Patriots. Everybody have a great weekend. It's Friday afternoon. I just thought I'd bring y'all a couple of clips. I was right about the Antichrist term moniker, and Vivek Ramaswamy proved that truth matters. And when you tell the right story, crooked reporters turning the cameras off. Nothing but crickets. Over and out, folks. Have a good one.